Okay, year 7, so we're having a look today at texture. So what you should have already done is you should have put your hand down on your page and you should have very carefully and lightly with your pencil gone and drew round your hand. I'm just going to do mine quickly. So on your page, you can see mine sort of very, very lightly there. You'll have something that looks like that. Okay, so what we're going to do in this hand now is we are going to add a different texture into each of your fingers. Okay, so the first finger we are going to be having a look at, we're going to be creating a wood-like texture. So you have got on your table some pictures of different textures all put together, and it should look something like this one that I've got here. Okay, so the first texture we're going to create is this one, and we're going to create it in this little finger here. Okay, so the key part of this texture is the different lines that we see. Okay, and to make it look like wood, what we need to do is we need to add this sort of little circular section, and then the way the lines curve around the outside. So I'm just going to zoom in for you so you can see what I'm doing a little bit more clearly. Okay, so I've got my little finger and I am actually going to start with this circular section of the wood up here, and I'm going to be drawing it inside my finger, sort of round about halfway where the fold of your finger would usually be. So I've just sketched it in a soft little bit of shading in a sort of medium tone, and then looking at what actually happens in the picture, it gets darker towards the centre. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to create a darker part in the middle of that shape, and then from there, this is where our lines start to come out. So at the top here, I've got a little line, it sort of goes a little bit like that, and it arches up. And I'm just going to have it come into the top of the finger. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a little look for all the different lines and cracks and things that I can see. And I'm starting off by sketching them very lightly. And then when I see darker areas develop, that's when I can start to build them in. So there's a line, a crack that comes directly from inside that thing there, that little knot that we've created. And it kind of twists and curves down, and it comes down into a much bigger, darker sort of crease down here at the bottom. So once I've sketched it in, I'm going to go over a bit darker and make it look like a bit of a darker crack. And then we have some of the lines that sort of curve around that knot as well. And these are the parts that are really going to make it look like a wood-like texture when we have them sort of curving off around the shape of that knot around there. And then again, I'm going to have some of them curve back in around the shape of that wood. And then they all sort of break off, and you get some really sharp little bits, you get some longer little bits, but you're just going to go and pick out what you can see and just create it using our knowledge of line, pushing with different pressures to make different style marks. So where things appear darker to you, you can add some darker ones in, and where things appear lighter, you can add some little lighter ones in too. Okay, so once I've got my darker marks in and my lighter marks in, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some gentle shading on top. So generally the shading around the knot I can see in my little picture here, sort of lighter around this area, and then around here it's a little bit darker in areas, okay? So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So again, I'm getting my pencil flat to the page like we did when we were looking at shading our gradients. So I'm not pushing very hard at all because the wood texture isn't very hard at all. And I'm sort of shading off in a vertical direction. And then when I get round to the knot, I'm just going to shade even lighter. Okay, just like that. And you can see, because I've left the shading until I've gone over the top, it's kind of made it all come together in a little wood-like creation. So what I'm going to do is just to finish it off, I don't want to leave my edge all sort of loose like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the edge of my finger, and I'm just going to make it look a little bit lumpy and bumpy, and kind of maybe have it come into some of the curves of the wood texture, just so it does look a little bit more like wood rather than just the edge of the shape of my finger. Okay, and down here what you can do if you want to is you can just give it a little finger smudge. Give it a little finger smudge and it'll just blend it into the palm of your hand. If any of your lines you think they've gone a bit too light, you can go back in and pick some of them back out again. But it is quite nice that it does get them to sort of blend in with your texture. If you think you need a little bit of a darker area anywhere, you can go in and you can add little bits of shading to make some areas appear as though they've gone a bit down, a bit deeper. But as long as you've got the lines and you've got a grey tone in the background that goes lighter around that knot, then that's job done.